says we are at page 24. Last headword was linking words, new word type of lesson. Okay, so let's
Okay.
start with our revision. Okay, let me just scroll down to page. Okay, here we go. In. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Okay, I'm
Okay,
ready. Yes.
how much is 2000 minus 600? How much is 2000 minus 600?
600.
2000 minus
2000
600
minus
is
600 is
1400.
1400.
Oh, we don't say 1400. We say 1400.
1400.
But after the numbers, after the 100, we say and, like 403, 400 and
403.
425. So after the
400.
100, we say and.
After the 100,
Uh,
we say
and.
adding the word
And.
and. Okay.
That's correct. After the 100.
Okay.
Okay, next. What do we get if we subtract 60 from 40? What do we get if we subtract 60 from 40? If we subtract
If we subtract
60 from 40,
60 from
we
40,
get
we
minus
get
20.
minus 20.
Very good. And if we add 25 to 1,000, what do we get? And if we add 25 to 1,000, what do we get?
We get,
If we add
if we
25
add
to
25
1,000,
to
we
1,000,
get
we get
1,000 and
1,000 and
25.
1,000
And
and
25.
25.
Yeah,
Mm.
because 25 is lower than the 100 already.
Lower than okay,
And
I understood.
anything
Okay.
that's lower than 100, you put and at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, one more. If we add
If we add
25 to 1,000,
25 to
we
1,000,
get
we get
1,025.
1,025.
Very good. Say 8.5 as a decimal number. Say 8.5 as a decimal number, please. 8.5.
8.5.
What's 1.75 expressed as a fraction? What's 1.75 expressed as a fraction? 1.75
1.75
expressed as a fraction
expressed as a
is
fraction
1 and
is
3
one
quarters.
and three quarters.
Very good. In the number 9,300, which punctuation mark do we use to separate the digit 9 from the digit
9,
3? In
3.
the number 9,300, which punctuation mark do we use to separate the digit 9 from the digit 3? In the number
In the number
9,300, we
9,300,
use a
we
comma
use a
to
comma
separate the
to
digit
separate
9
the digit 9
from the digit
from
3.
the digit 3.
Greg, what's the best interest rate one could expect to get from a savings account at the moment? What's the best interest rate one could expect to get from a savings account at the moment? The best interest
The best
rate
interest
one
rate
could expect
one
to
could
get
expect to
from a
get
savings
from
account
a savings
at
account
the moment is
at the
about
moment is about 5%.
5%. Very good. And if you borrowed £5,000 from a bank now, what interest rate would you expect to be charged? And if you borrowed £5,000 from a bank now, what interest rate would you expect to be charged? If I borrowed
If I borrowed
£5,000
5,000
from a
pounds
bank now,
from a bank
I'd
now,
expect to be
I'd
charged
expect to be
an
charged
interest rate of
an interest rate of
percent.
7.5%.
Very good. Okay. Which is the largest stock exchange in the world? Which is the largest stock exchange in the world? The New York Stock
The New York
Exchange
Stock
is
Exchange
the largest stock
is the largest
exchange
stock
in the
exchange
world.
in the world.
Very good. How does floating on the stock market provide a company with capital to grow?
Capital
How
grow.
does floating on the stock market provide a company with a capital to grow? Floating on the stock
Floating
market
on the stock market
provides a company
provides a
with a
company
capital to
with a
grow
capital to
because
grow
the company
because the
obtains
company
money
obtains
from
money
selling the
from
shares
selling the
it
shares
issues.
it issues.
Very good. Which of these two food products would you expect to have the longest shelf life? A packet of biscuits or a tin of
Biscuit.
baked beans? Which of these two food products would you expect to have the longest shelf life? A packet of biscuits or a tin of baked beans? Of those two food
Of those
products,
two food
a
products,
packet of biscuits,
sorry, say
Homer,
it again.
of those two food
Of the
products,
food products,
a packet of
a
biscuits,
packet of
and a
biscuits
tin of
and a
baked
tin
beans,
of baked beans,
I'd expect
I'd expect a tin of
baked
baked
beans
beans
to have the longest
to have the
shelf life.
longest shelf lives.
Very good. Okay, if you own a department store, which do you think would boost sales more efficiently? Spending on advertising or spending on training for sales staff? If you own a department store,
A
which do you think
department
would boost
store.
sales more efficiently? Spending on advertising or spending on training
Oh.
for sales staff? If I own a
If I
department
own a
store,
department
I
store,
think
I think spending
on training
on
for
training
sales staff
for sales
would
staff
boost sales more
would boost
efficiently
sales more
than
efficiently
spending
than
on
spending
advertising.
on advertising.
Very good. What kind of companies normally run annual training scheme for new graduates? What kind of companies normally run annual training scheme for new graduates? The kind of
The kind
companies
of
that
company
normally
that
run
normally
annual
run
training scheme
annual training
for new
scheme
graduates
for new
are big
graduates are
companies
big
that know
companies
they'll
that
have
knows
a
they'll
large
have a
number of
large number
positions
of
available.
positions available.
Very good. Is it an act of fraud to lie about your qualifications in your CV?
In your
Is
CV.
it an act of fraud to lie about your qualifications in your CV? Yes, it's
Yes,
an act of
it's an
fraud
act of
to
fraud
lie
to
about your
lie about
qualifications
your
in your
qualification in
CV.
your CV.
Very good. What is the government's main source of revenue? What is the government's main source of revenue? A government's
A
main
government
source
main
of
source
revenue
of
is
revenue
the
is
taxation
the
system.
taxation system.
Very good. And what might the government need to do if its expenditure regularly exceeds its
Regularly
revenue?
exceeds its
And
revenue.
what might the government need to do if its expenditure regularly exceeds its revenue? If a government
If a government
expenditure regularly
expenditure
exceeds
regularly
its
exceeds
revenue,
its
it
revenue,
might need to
it
borrow
might
money.
need to borrow money.
Very good. Okay. In a charity, club, or society, which aspect of the organization is the treasurer in
The
charge of?
treasurer in
In
charge
a
of.
charity, club, or society, which aspect of the organization is the treasurer in charge of? In a charity,
In a
club,
charity,
or
club,
society,
or
the
society,
treasurer is
the
in
treasurer is
charge
in
of
charge
the
of
organization's
the
finances.
organization finances.
Very good. What's an organogram? What's an organogram? An
An
organogram is a
organogram
diagram
is a
showing
diagram
us the structure
showing us the
of an
structure of
organization,
an
and it
organization,
allows
and
us to
it allows
understand
us
the
to
hierarchy
understand the
that
hierarchy
exists and
that
the
exists and the
relationships
relationship
among the personnel.
among the personnel.
Very good. In your view, does a business need to have a strict hierarchy to ensure that it's managed efficiently? In your view, does a business need to have a strict hierarchy to ensure that it's managed efficiently? Yes or no?
Yes,
In my view, a
in my
business
view,
needs
a
to
business
have a
need to
strict
have a
hierarchy
strict
to
hierarchy
ensure that
to
it's
ensure
managed
that
efficiently.
it's managed efficiently.
Very good. Why? Why do you think so? Because?
Um, because by their hierarchy system,
Hmm.
each individuals can know their role and
The
lead
role.
to a quick decision.
Very good. And they know where to report and who to report to. Very good.
Yeah, yeah.
Next, do employers in your country have to pay workers extra for doing overtime? Do employers in your country have to pay workers extra for doing overtime? Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
Employers in my
Employers
country
in my
have to
country
pay
have to
workers
pay
extra
workers
for doing
extra for
overtime.
doing overtime.
Very good. What's a common reason for needing to work overtime? What's a common reason
Common
for
reason.
needing to work overtime? A common reason
A common
for
reason
needing to
for
work
needing to
overtime
work
is
overtime
when there's
is
an
when there is
important
an
deadline
important
to meet.
deadline to meet.
Right? What's the opposite of to meet a deadline? What's the opposite of to
Opposite
meet
of
a
to meet a
deadline?
deadline.
The
The
opposite of
opposite
to meet
of
a
to meet
deadline
a
is to
deadline
miss a
is to
deadline.
miss a deadline.
Very good. What could you say to a telephone receptionist if you wanted to speak to Mr. Jones, for example, but didn't know his
Didn't
personal
know his
extension in the
personal
office?
extension in the
What
office.
could you say to a telephone
To a
receptionist if you wanted to
receptionist
speak
if you
to Mr.
wanted to
Jones,
speak
for
to Mr.
example,
Jones, for
but you
example.
didn't know his
You didn't
personal
know his
extension?
personal extension.
If I wanted to
If I
speak to
wanted to
someone,
speak
for
to
example,
someone, for
but
example,
I didn't know
but
his
I didn't know
extension,
his
I could
extension,
say,
I
could you
could
put me
say,
through
could you put me
to
through
Mr. Jones,
to
please?
Mr. Jones, please?
Very good. Okay, so next, okay, so that's the end of our revision. Let's
Okay, yeah.
continue new work.
New work,
Okay,
okay.
so let's start again with, okay, here we go. Repeat supplies,
Supplies,
miscommunication,
miscommunication,
delivery,
delivery,
warehouse,
warehouse,
compensation,
compensation,
reduction,
reduction,
invoice,
invoice,
shortly.
shortly.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word supplies is a noun.
Supplies is a
It is the
noun,
amount of something
amount
available to
something
be used.
available to be used.
Miscommunication is a noun. It means a failure of
Failure
communication.
of
Did not
communication,
understand.
did not understand.
Delivery is a noun. It means the
Delivery,
act of taking something
act
to
of
a
getting
person
something
or
to a
place.
person
For
or
example,
place.
the delivery is scheduled for
Delivery
this
is
morning.
scheduled for this morning.
Warehouse is a noun.
Where
It is a
is a noun
large building used for storing
used
goods and
for storing
stocks.
the stocks.
Compensation is a noun. It
Is
is
a noun
something that is done or given to make
or
up for
given
the
or make
damage,
up for the damage,
trouble, etc.
etc.
For example, she offered to pay for lunch as compensation for
As
keeping me
compensation
waiting.
for keeping me thinking.
Reduction is a noun. It
Reduction.
is the act of making something
After
smaller
making
in
something
size,
smaller in
amount,
size,
number,
amount,
etc.
number,
The
etc.
act of reducing something,
After
reduction.
reducing something, reduction.
For example, many voters want to see some
Want to
reduction
see some,
in the deficit.
want to see some deficit.
Invoice is a noun. It is
Invoice
a
is a noun.
document that shows a list
Document
of
that shows
goods or
the
services
good or
and the
services
prices to be paid for them.
price to be paid
For
for them.
example, payment is due within 30 days after receipt
30
of
days
the
after
invoice.
receipt of the invoice.
Shortly is an adverb. It means in or within a
In
short
or
time.
within a
For
short time.
example, they should arrive shortly.
Shortly. They should
Okay, very good. Okay, so now please get your book again.
get
Okay,
okay.
and open to page 26.
Page 26.
Very good. And let's read some business letter, example business letter.
Sample business letter
Okay.
26.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, read from the start. JLFB.
Okay. J JLFB Furniture Supplies
Mhm.
to Dale Park, London, SE 226 4 IY.
That's their postal code. Okay, next.
Postal code.
Uh-huh.
Next and tell number 0
Telephone
0
number.
020
Mm,
7946 0570 www.jlfbfurniture.co.uk
very
20, 21st November 2014.
good. Mhm.
Simon Fisher, Assistant Head Teacher, Denchurch Primary School, Slade Avenue, London, SE4 9PD. Dear Fisher, RE failed delivery.
Mhm.
With reference to your letter dated 19th November, I am writing to apologize for the failed delivery of desks and chairs and to confirm that we will, of course, arrange for the items to be delivered to your school immediately. We are sorry to hear that you personally waited for the delivery in vain on the afternoon of Saturday, 17th November. There was an unfortunate and very rare miscommunication between our customer services department and the warehouse, which led to the order being accidentally scheduled for next month. As a compensation for the inconvenience caused, we would like to offer you a 5% reduction on the price of the items ordered, and there will be no charge for the delivery itself. You should therefore ignore our previous invoice. A new one will follow in the post shortly. Please could you call our warehouse directly on 020 794 794 60572
Mhm.
and speak to the manager, Terry Franks, in order to arrange a day and time for delivery that is convenient for you. Yours sincerely, D. Tom, David Tom, Customer Service Manager. Direct line 020 7946 5712. Email david.thorn@jlfb.co.uk.
Very
Okay.
good reading. Oh, there's no problem in your reading. Okay, so
Okay.
let's continue. Okay, you can close your book again.
Close my book.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's continue with practice. Okay, here we go. If
Okay.
we're writing a business letter on a plain paper without a letterhead, where's a common place to put our own address? If we're writing a business letter on a plain paper without the letterhead, where's a common place to put our own address? If we're writing a business
If we
letter
are writing a
on
business
a
letter
plain paper
on a plain
without a
paper
letterhead,
without a
a
letterhead,
common place to put
a common
our
place
own
to put
address
our own
is on
address
the top
is
right
on
hand
the top
corner.
right hand corner.
Very good. Okay. And where should we put the address of the person our company we're writing to? And where should we put the address of the person or company we're writing to? We
Okay.
should put the
We
address
should put the
on
address
of the person or
of the
company
person or
we're
company
writing to
we are writing to
below our own address.
below.
Our own address
Okay, below our own
on
address
the left hand side
on the left
of
hand
the
side
page.
of the page.
Very good. If we're writing to someone called Simon Fisher, for example, how should
For
we start the
example,
letter? Dear Mr. Fisher, dear
dear
Simon
Mr.
Fisher, or
Dear
dear
Simon Fisher,
Simon?
dear Simon.
If we're writing to someone called Simon Fisher, for example, how should we start the letter? Dear Mr. Fisher, dear Simon Fisher, or dear Simon? If we're writing to
If we are
someone
writing
called
to someone
Simon
who
Fisher,
called Simon
for
Fisher,
example,
for
we should
example,
start the
we should
letter
start the
with
letter
Dear
with
Mr. Fisher.
dear Mr. Fisher.
Very good. How should we start a letter if we don't know the name of the person we're writing to? How should we start a letter if we don't know the name of the person we're writing to? If we don't know the
If you
name
don't
of
know
the
the
person
name of
we're
the
writing
person we
to,
are writing
we
to,
should start a
we
letter
should start the
with
letter
Dear
with
Sir
dear sir
or Madam.
or madam.
Very good. What's the purpose of the line we often find at the start of a business letter that begins with the abbreviation RE? What's the purpose of the line we often find at the start of a
Find
business
us
letter that
letter
begins with the
that
abbreviation
begins
RE?
with
The
A.
purpose of the
The
line
purpose
we
of the
often
line
find
we
at
often
the
find
start of a
at the
business
start
letter
of a business
that
letter
begins with the
that begins
abbreviation
with the
RE
abbreviation
is to
RE
indicate
is to
that the
indicate
letter is
that the
about
letter is
of
about.
what the letter is about.
Okay, what the letter is about.
Very good. What should we mention in the first main paragraph? What should we mention in
Should
the
we
first
mention in
main
main
paragraph?
paragraph?
In the first main
In the
paragraph,
first main
we should
paragraph,
mention
we should
any
mention
earlier
any
correspondence
earlier
we're
correspondence
replying to
we are replying
and
to
our reason for
and
writing the
our
letter.
reason for our
Writing
reason
for writing the
ri-
letter.
our reason for writing the letter.
Very good. One more. In the first
Okay,
main
in the
paragraph,
first main
we should
paragraph,
mention
we should
any
mention
earlier
any earlier
correspondence we
correspondence
are
we
replying
are
to
replying
and
to
our
and
reason
our
for writing
reason
the letter.
for writing the letter.
Very good. Why is it important to start a new paragraph each time we change the subject or make an important new point? Why is it important to start a new paragraph each time we change the
Each time
subject
we
or make
change
an
the subject
important
or
new
make an
point?
important point.
It's important to
It's
start a
important
new
to start
paragraph
a new
each
paragraph
time we
each
change the
time we
subject
change a
or
subject
make an
or
important
make
new
an
point
important new point
because it makes the
because it
letter
makes the
easier to
letters
read
easier to
and
read
understand.
and understand.
Very should we use full forms or contracted forms in a business letter? Should we use full
We
forms
use
or
form
contracted
or
forms in a
conducted
business
form
letter?
in the letter.
We should use
We
full
should use
forms
full
in a
forms
business letter.
and in a business letter.
Very good. Why are linking words and expressions important in our writing? Why are linking words and expressions important in our writing? Linking words
Linking
and
words and
expressions are
expressions
important
are
in our
important
writing
in our writings
because they help
because
to
they
connect
help
our
to
ideas
connect our
together
ideas
clearly.
together clearly.
Very good. Give me a few examples of linking words and expressions. Give me a few examples of linking words and expressions, please. However,
However,
therefore, in
therefore,
order to,
in order
on
to,
account of,
on account of,
etc., are
etc.,
few
a
examples
few
of linking
examples of
words and
linking words
expressions.
and expressions.
Right? If we want to make a request for the reader to do something specific after reading our letter,
After
where's a
reading
good place to put the request? If we want to make a request for the reader to do something specific
something
after reading
specific
our
after
letter,
reading our
where's a
letter.
good place to put the
Where to put
request?
press put the-
If we want to make
If
a
we want
request
to make a
for the
request
reader to do
for the
something
reader to do
specific
something specific
after reading our
after
letter,
reading our
a good
letter,
place to
a
put
good
the
place
request
to put the
is
request
near the end.
is near the end.
Very good. Okay, so what's the difference in use between yours sincerely and yours faithfully? What's the difference in use
Difference
between yours sincerely and yours faithfully? The difference in
The
use
difference in
between
use
yours
between
sincerely
yours
and yours
sincerely and
faithfully
yours
is that
faithfully
we
is that
use yours
we use
sincerely
yours
when
sincerely
we've written
when we return
a person's name at
a
the
person's
beginning
name
of the
at the
letter,
beginning of the letter,
whereas we use
whereas we
yours
use
faithfully
yours
when
faithfully
we've started the
when we
letter
started the
with
letter
dear sir and dear
with dear
madam.
sir and dear madam.
Very good. Okay, now let's move on to reading.
Reading, okay.
Very good job. Our reading is at page 2.
Page 2,
Page
okay.
2, and the last headword was promote. Okay, start with the second question. Have you ever asked your boss for a promotion?
Okay. I found it. Okay. Have you ever asked your boss for a promotion at work? No, I've never asked my boss for a promotion at work.
Mhm.
And
In the red.
okay, in the red, in the black. Is it better for a business to be in the red or in the black? It's better for a business to be in the black.